And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. This is where we talk about St. Mary's University athletics. I'm Dean Beckman, co-hosted once again with Donnie Netto, our sports information director at St. Mary's. And typically on the program, we usually feature an individual sport at St. Mary's, but we're going to mix things up a little bit today, and we've decided to discuss something that doesn't get talked about a lot in collegiate athletics, and that is injuries. Donnie, we've got our head athletic trainer, Jill Collum, on the program today. So, Jill, thanks for being on the program, first of all, and Donnie, we're excited to have Jill on. This is a topic that I think is important to talk about, and we have not touched on yet here on the Cardinals.
Well, I think the big thing is you know, Jill's been around for a number of years. She's an old timer like myself, but she's one of our unsung heroes. People don't know a lot about Jill herself, except that she always makes our athletes better. Yep. And so I think that, you know, it is nice to get her in front of the camera. You know, she's one of those that gets to kind of hide behind the scenes rather than be in front. And I think it's, if nothing else, it's important for people to realize how much Jill does for our department, how much she does for our athletes, and how appreciative they are, I know I am, in what she does to make sure that our athletes are healthy and able to play at their highest level.
Right, and Jill, I don't think we do your position justice when we say, oh, we're going to talk about injuries, because I know there's a lot more that you do than just deal with injuries. Before we get into all of that, though, tell us how long you've been at St. Mary's, and then also actually how you got your start and your interest in being an athletic trainer.
Well, I started way back in '91. If we want to date myself. I was a student at Winona State, and they were looking for an assistant. Back then, the laws were a little different, so I was able to work as an assistant athletic trainer at St. Mary's, and I was still a senior at Winona State. So it was kind of different at the time, but and then I just moved into the head position there, and I stayed for about 8 years, and then I left when my children were little because I worked 15-hour days. Again, things were different, and we just didn't have the staff we have now. So things have grown, and the profession has grown, and it's been really nice. So I've been back at St. Mary's for 6 years. So
I am curious to know, from an education standpoint, what does it take to become an athletic trainer?
Well, just recently, as of this year, the athletic training majors went to a master's program. So from here on out, everyone will graduate as a master's program. When I took it, I had an exercise science degree with exercise science and sports medicine emphasis. So it was a 4-year degree.
So, you know, a lot of times you're always encouraged to have an elevator pitch, right? You get in an elevator with someone, you've got like 30 seconds to a minute to tell them about yourself. What would be an elevator pitch for your job as a head athletic trainer? There are so many responsibilities that go into that. How can you sum up a little bit about what you do?
I'm just there all day long for the athletes. I mean, and they are my number one priority. I always tell them my door's always open and my phone's always on, and sometimes I regret saying that, but I do enjoy them, and they keep me young, and I just love what I do.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things you mentioned it in your job, my job, coaches' jobs, it's not a 9-to-5 type of a job, and really anybody who wants to get into your profession or an SID have to understand that. They have to realize that you know, you don't punch a clock at 9 and go home at 5. How are you able to kind of handle that? Because it does take a toll on a person when, you know, it's a 24/7 job. I'm sure you've had calls at 10 o'clock, you know,
Absolutely.
I need to go to the ER or whatever. So talk a little bit about how you are able to manage time management in terms of your job.
Well, I take advantage of my morning. If I have a few hours to do stuff that I need to do for myself, those are the times. Or here and there, like, you know, Donnie, if you finally get a day off, you do that then. The hardest thing is, you know, winter season's the busiest, as it is probably, well, all your seasons are probably busier too, Donnie, but, you know, you have to balance that, and thankfully St. Mary's is a place that I could bring my children when they were small, and it was a great environment for them. So
when they were small, you brought them when they were big too.
I did. I brought them both to school, so they did follow me there to school. So, and they love St. Mary's.
And you know, I was going to ask that, and we talked a little bit about it off camera. But how nice was it to have your daughters here with you? You know, they didn't necessarily work for you, but you got to interact with them a lot while they were in college. Right. I was fortunate enough; both of my boys went to St. Mary's and played hockey. It's really a nice thing to be able to kind of spend some time with your daughters at that collegiate
Right.
age.
I loved having them there. I don't know if they always liked me being there and knowing what was, because the training room's kind of a place that all gossip is heard. So they probably didn't like all the things that I've learned, but it was nice having them there and to have that relationship with them while they were in school.
You know, Jill, last year Donnie and I had Matt Sager on the program, our strength and conditioning coach, and one of the things we talked about with him and the difficulty of his job is he can't specialize in one sport, sort of like our coaches can. And the same thing goes for you.
Correct.
You're the head athletic trainer for all of the sports teams. Maybe talk about how you handle that, your relationship with coaches, the importance of that, and how it matters, sort of what plan you put in place for an athlete based on the sport that they play.
Well, it is all sport specific, and we try to, cater to the coaches just to make smooth waters. I mean, it's hard when I feel like their job is to coach, and we should be seen and not heard, and just to make sure everything underlying is taken care of, so when they get on the court with or the field, that everything is taken care of and they don't have to worry about things. So, I mean, I have two great assistants, and they cover their sports, and that kind of helps me out a lot. But I do oversee them, and it's just good to have extra great help.
Can you talk a little bit about how you go about assessing an injury? And you can pick one. It doesn't matter what it is, but from let's say start to finish, a baseball player gets hurt on the field. What are your responsibilities, and how does that get carried through, all the way through to hopefully getting them back on the field?
Sure. I mean, first, obviously, we're going to go out on the field, assess the injury, do an acute assessment, and then, hopefully they're able to come off the field with us. If they need to be referred, we refer them to one of our physicians. They come back, whether they do rehab with us or if they do it formal therapy at the clinic. Sometimes that, is something they have to do according to the modalities they have compared to what we have. They do their rehab, and our goal is to get them out as quick as we can. We don't want anybody just sitting around just kind of hanging out, so hopefully they can get back as quick as they can.
And I know that from personal experience, the buck stops with you too, in that, coaches want them back tomorrow.
Sure.
Well, I think that, is it not true to say that you are the final say? You're the one that tells a coach when Joe Smith is eligible to play again in terms of recovery from an injury? We
are, and it doesn't always make us popular, but the coaches are great at St. Mary's to work with, and they understand. They're not always happy with our decision, but they certainly support us. So,
Joe, what's been the biggest, you mentioned you've been at St. Mary's for quite a while. What's been the biggest change in terms of treatment of injuries, but also in terms of the injuries that you're seeing? Has it changed from when you started to what you're seeing now?
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot more overuse injuries, I believe, and I don't know, we kind of talk about this at our conferences, that I kind of feel that sometimes kids are pushed a little harder at a younger age when they're not really physically ready to do the things that they've been asked to do. So we get a lot of that. The biggest change at St. Mary's for me is just the staff and the space. I mean, we had a little tiny room compared to how we have now, and it's much nicer.
So a couple of questions. I think you talked about the overuse injuries. Would it be safe to say you're an advocate in youth sports for multi-sport athletes and not specialization, or where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when I work mostly with volleyball, men's and women's hockey, and softball, so, if I have a softball player, I'm going to use, mostly shoulder injuries for the most part, and so we do specialize in depending on the season, but yeah, we do see a variety of injuries.
And then the other question I wanted to ask, really has to do with something that gets a lot of media attention, and that's concussions.
Correct.
What is the treatment of concussions? Have you seen more in recent years? Is it just because there's more attention paid to it?
Correct.
Give us your insight into the concussion world that we hear so much about.
We do see a lot more concussions, and it is because it's more, I mean, back when I first started, people were like, oh, they got their bell rung, and they're fine, put them back in. And it's just more of a liability to do that protocol to return to play. We have a standard protocol that they have so many days to return, and they have to meet all those expectations and those criteria before we're allowed to let them play.
Before we go to break, Joe, we're going to bring on one of your quote-unquote patients for the second segment, in Ashley Corcoran, a women's hockey player. Talk a little bit about her situation in terms of the injury that she suffered and what you've been doing to help her recover.
Okay. Ashley was a unique case. She was involved in a car accident, so it really wasn't even a sports-related injury. She's a goalie on our women's hockey team, and her leg had been still bothering her a few days after. She went in for an x-ray, and they found a tumor. She had some good news as far as it was being benign, but it was causing pressure with the bone to bend it. They were worried that it would break it eventually, so she was held out from hockey then for the rest of her season, which thankfully she was a senior and didn't miss several years of playing collegiate hockey, but she did have a rod placed in her tibia, and she's had a long haul recovery, but she's done very well. She does a lot of more range of motion stuff. We're trying to work the swelling out and just trying to work that strength of her lower leg to make sure she can walk efficiently.
And, you know, we'll have Ashley on in just a minute here, but I think, you know, we talk about your job as head athletic trainer, and so much of it, of course, is physical and the science behind it. But it sounds to me like even part of your job is a little psychological, right?
It is.
You've got to, first of all, when you've got the injury, either on the field, on the ice, on the court, whatever it is, you've got to calm the person down because they're in pain and traumatized a little bit. But then, if it's a long recovery process, you've got to, you know, deal with the motivational factors as well. Maybe to discuss the psychological part of your job.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes you get into it and you think, oh, I'm never going to get this athlete through because, you know, you get in this rut. It's just like, you know, anything that kids do, but we just have to always keep it fresh, whether it's mixing up the rehab so they're not getting bored, or if, you know, some days it's like you had a really good day, here's a treat, you know. I mean, we do anything to, you know, set goals for them, and once they reach them, we try to reward that.
Yeah. You know, can you talk real quickly about the satisfaction you get out of the fact that you mentioned your door is always open. There's always people in there, and a lot of times it's not people that need to be rehabbed or even need to be taped or even need to be trained, but just come in to talk. And I know I see it a lot during the winter because the training room is right there in the rink, and you've got people in there all the time, and that's got to feel kind of rewarding that people want to come and sit and talk to you, probably about things far more than just an injury or what's going on that day.
It is, you know, and I think that's one of the biggest things I do love about my job is those kids trust me, and I like that they feel that they can come to me. I mean, they're away from home and they're looking for an adult that, besides their teammates, that, you know, maybe this person give me a little bit different advice, and whether it's advice or just sitting there listening to them, it just makes me feel good that they want to come in and talk to me.
Jill, one last question before we go. Piece of advice to someone, maybe a high school student or early years of college, thinking about going into athletic training. What would be the number one thing they should think about or skill that they should have?
Well, you want to know that how to balance your time. And you want to know that it is time consuming, but it's very rewarding. And if they're willing to work toward that goal, they're going to love what they do.
All right, Jill, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
The show today. And Jill Collum is our head athletic trainer at St. Mary's. And we're going to bring on, as Donnie said, one of her patients next. That's Ashley Corcoran from the women's hockey team. That's next here on HBC.
Don't miss out on highlights and score updates from your favorite local college and high school athletics by following HBC TV 25 Sports. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get up-to-date information on all the games covered by the HBC Sports team. Grab your smartphone and add us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at HBC TV 25 Sports.
What's a Southern girl? It's waking up before the sun rises. It's loving the simple things in life like the dirt roads that lead you home. It's working hard to get what you want. It's hanging your own stands, breaking your own ground, and strategizing every little move for that one moment when everything you've worked for is standing right in front of you. Even if I fail a million times, I keep pushing myself till I'm exhausted, filthy, and about to give up. And that's when the adrenaline hits.
HBC Community Wi-Fi is a system of wireless access points installed in public and private locations. Delivering community Wi-Fi to a remote campground or marina is an engineering challenge that can involve a lot of different technologies and require some creative thinking. HBC leadership is committed to delivering cutting-edge services to our customers and in the communities we serve.
providing opportunities for residential and business customers. HBC is innovation and creativity.
Businesses of all sizes demand results. That's why HBC provides digital solutions for every business, from startups and entrepreneurs to large corporations. HBC is local. Our team of customer service reps and business specialists are your friends and neighbors. HBC will take the time to understand your business and recommend a tailor-made solution. HBC delivers a competitive edge for a competitive price. Let HBC Business Solutions take your business to the next level. Call 888-474-9995 today.
Be sure to check out US Golf TV, where you are going to see golf products that you have never seen before. You're also going to see golf tips from some of the leading instructors around the country that are truly changing the way people are teaching the game and challenging the status quo. Also, you're going to see fitness tips that are revolutionizing the way PGA Tour pros are training their body and swinging the golf club. If you want something different, if you're looking for some new information, US Golf TV has it. Be sure to check your local listings. US Golf TV, we've got you covered.
Follow the national circuit of the Pro Watercross Tour each week on Pro Watercross. It's not your average day at the beach. Featuring the best professional and amateur power sport athletes from around the world competing on the most beautiful beaches and venues in the USA, on some of the most challenging and technical race courses in the world. Check out the high-speed thrills of Pro Watercross on HBC TV 25.
Kelmus Implement Company is an agricultural equipment dealership. Back in 2016, when HBC brought fiber optics to Altura, we saw a huge benefit in internet speeds over previous providers. With our vendors requiring real-time communications with our inventory and parts books, the internet speed has given us an advantage over our competition. I would recommend HBC's products because HBC has helped Kelmus Implement grow.
Contact HBC about our lightning-fast home and business internet connections today.
And we are back on the Cardinals Nest here on HBC, and today we've had on the head athletic trainer for St. Mary's, Jill Collum, and now we bring on Ashley Corcoran. Ashley was the goaltender for the women's hockey team for many years. Ashley is now a senior, and Ashley, I know your senior season cut short because of the injury and the car accident that Jill mentioned in the first segment. But before we get to all of that and your rehab and all the work you're putting in for that, tell us about your career at St. Mary's, because it has been a fantastic career. You came to us from Red Wing, your hometown, and so maybe tell us, first of all, how you got started playing hockey, and then how you ended up coming from Red Wing here to Winona and St. Mary's.
Yeah, sure. I started playing when I was 4, and my dad was a goalie, and he coached me all through growing up and stuff, so I got involved with the sport through him. And then, yeah, I played for Red Wing for a number of years, and Greg Moore, our coach, recruited me along with Terry Manor, and so then I came to St. Mary's and haven't regretted anything. It's been a blast.
And we should say recruited your sister too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yep, she came along too, and yeah, it's been a blast. I've loved all of my years here and stuff, and it's been a long time of memories that I'll never forget.
It was smart of Terry and Greg to recruit the Corcorans. It was a package deal.
Well, I was going to say, you had mentioned your dad was a goalie and you were a goalie. Was that enough for him that he didn't want your sister to be a goalie as well? Is that how that worked?
Well, he didn't even want me to be a goalie, but he put me in one game because in youth hockey, one of our goalies was sick, and I never wanted to leave the net, and so he just went along with it.
Yeah. And I would imagine your coaches, once they saw you play goalie, didn't want you to leave the net either after that, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that. It took a while, but
Actually, talk a little bit about playing with your sister, because I know that I have 2 boys and they're 5 years apart, so they never got the chance to play together on the same team. Talk about that and what that's like to be able to play with a sibling.
Yeah, it's been super special. Not many people get to do what we've been able to do. I think we've only been on different teams about 3 years throughout our whole hockey career. And so it's been really good to have her on the same team as me, because we push each other to be the best that we can be, and so it's nice to have her as a support system too.
The season started this year, and you were voted captain. Talk a little bit about being the captain of this team and what that meant to you.
Yeah, it was super exciting to be voted captain, and I was super excited to lead the team and be in a leadership role, especially with how many freshmen we had coming in. I knew that it was going to be a challenge to keep like the team dynamic together and everything, and I think that me, Maria, and Natalie did a good job at keeping it all together. And stuff.
You know, Ashley, I was going to say, when you came here as a freshman, you played a significant amount of minutes right away as a freshman, and obviously continued that up until the injury. So maybe talk about the challenge of getting kind of thrown right into MIAC action, one of the best conferences in all of the country in Division III right away as a freshman.
Yeah, it was definitely like a little bit scary at first, but I just love playing so much, and so being able to play at this level, especially within the MIAC, it's so competitive, and so it really has pushed me as a player too.
And then talk about the importance of the mindset of the goaltender, right? Because a lot of times you'll get the credit if your team wins and maybe you get a shutout, right? But you're also the one, if you give up the game-winning goal in overtime, the spotlight's on you, for better or for worse sometimes. You have to be pretty mentally tough, don't you?
Yeah, I always say that it's about like 90% a mental game, because you just can't get like things into your head. Like if a goal goes in, you just have to forget about it right away and then focus on it later on and everything. So it's definitely a mental game, but it makes it more fun too.
You know, how hard is it as one of the leaders? Because like what Dean said, you know, if a goal is scored, everybody's looking at you, because no matter what the other 5 did, whether they were at fault or not, it's your fault. And so you've still got to be able to lead this team, knowing that, you know what, yeah, okay, that was my fault. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think that when a goal goes in, I just try and forget about it right away and focus on the next shot, so that I just look prepared and focused, so that my team I can take them to the level where they have an opportunity to get that goal back, and so that we keep it in the game.
So, you know, we had Jill Collum on, our head athletic trainer. Unfortunately, you've had the opportunity to work very closely with her because of an injury that you suffered this year, your senior year. Tell us a little bit about the car accident and what happened as a result of that.
Yeah, so right before the season started, me and my sister got in a car accident, and I went to the doctor, and they saw like some sort of mass in my bone. And so I had a bunch of testing done and found out that I had a fibrous benign tumor in my leg. And so with that, like, I had a biopsy done, and I was out for about a month. And so Jill and the rest of the training staff like helped me with that. And then I was able to play in about 3 games, I believe it was, after my recovery. But then during one of the games, a skater fell on my leg, and I went back into the doctor and found that I had a fracture in my bone. And so then I had to get surgery and get a rod put down my leg with screws and stuff. So
before we talk about the rehab and all of that, talk about that last game, because you knew it was your last game, and it was a shutout. And for those that don't understand, for a goalie, a shutout is the pinnacle. And I mean, unfortunately, having to end your career short's not very fun, but to end it the way you did really had to kind of at least take a little bit of that pain away. Yeah, that morning of that last game is when I found out that I had the fracture and that I needed surgery. And so I decided that, my doctor and I decided that that was going to be my last game. And so I brought the news to my coaches and just told them, and we decided together that I wasn't going to tell any of my teammates until after the game. And so played in the game, just tried to play my best, and it came out very well. And then afterwards, it was very emotional for me to tell the team and stuff, but I couldn't have ended on a better note, and I'll always remember that too. How about senior night? I know we talked about senior night when we had Coach Moore on, but I really thought that what he did for the seniors was pretty classy. Yeah. You started in goal. Mariah played as well, who was also hurt, and I thought that was really kind of a nice tribute for you two to be able to at least celebrate some part of senior day. Talk a little bit about that.
That was awesome. That's probably my favorite hockey memory that I'll ever have. And it was special because then me and Maria were able to actually participate within the game that we didn't think that we were going to be able to. And so Coach Moore and Jill really helped us with that, like getting everything together with the other coach and the team and the refs and everything like that. And so we went out and practiced and different things like that. And so it was really special to be a part of that.
Well, let's talk about Jill and the work that she's done in helping you rehab and the importance that she plays to St. Mary's student athletes.
Yeah, so Jill is awesome. She helps me so much with everything that, like, all of my rehab that I've had to go through and everything. She's been there every step of the way, and so she, like, really guides me in the direction that I need to be going in, tells me, like, you know, what I should be doing, what I can't quite do yet, and really just leads me on the path that's going to lead to my successful recovery.
How do you make sure, I'm sure that if this were last year, you've got your senior year to play for, so your rehab is going to be, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm ready to play. You don't have that senior year to rehab for. What drives you? What motivates you to make sure that you do the rehab the way you need to so that you can fully recover?
Yeah, so I want to be a physical therapist, and I'm actually going to physical therapy school starting in June. And so I guess to, like, be mindful of everything like that, I just want to recover fully for that profession and everything, just to say that, like, I've gone through that and I can relate to my future patients and things. And then also, like, I just want to be physically active, and so really getting back to just being able to do everything that I want to do is what's driving me.
You know, in order to do that, you majored in pre-physical therapy, biology at St. Mary's. Maybe talk about that program and how it prepares you to eventually go to physical therapy school, you know, graduate school from here.
Yeah, that's been a very challenging program to go through. I think the sciences at our school are very challenging, but I learned so much through them. All of the teachers are really great and supportive, and all of the classes and stuff get me to where I needed to be for the prerequisites for my graduate school and everything. So they really set me up on the right track for that.
Dream job, if you know, maybe 10, 15 years into your profession, what might be a dream job? Do you want to work with athletes, non-athletes? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that I definitely want to work with athletes just because of, like, my injury and dealing with that through hockey and everything. Like, I know that I wanted to, even when I had a chance to come back after, like, I had my biopsy done and everything, I wanted to get back as quickly as possible, but to do it in a safe way. And so working with athletes, I want to really, like, show that to them, that they can get back to what they want to be doing, but in a safe way as well.
No, I don't know if this is the case or not. Donnie oftentimes has some really little tidbits that he likes to ask student athletes at the end.
Unfortunately, I don't. But I was going to ask you: is hockey in your future? In terms of, are you thinking coaching? Are you thinking anything like that? Are you going to stay active in hockey? Yeah,
I think that hockey will always be a part of my life, whether I'm just watching or whether I'm going to be coaching in the future or joining some sort of women's league or anything like that. I definitely plan on doing those things, and so I just have to see where my future will take me with that too.
All right, Ashley Corcoran graduating in May
already,
right? It goes fast.
Yes, it does.
Well, thanks for being on the program today, and we appreciate you giving us all of this information. Good luck as you continue on the rehab and as you get set for graduate school.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's going to do it. Donnie and I will wrap things up here on the Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching on HBC TV 25.